Record.
About that.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday Notary Titans call for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. And our co-host and our guest, our co-host, are Laura Buer with CoachMeLaura.com. Laura, welcome.
Thank you.
And Carol Ray, I see you just popped on here too. Carol is the founder of NotaryToPro.com. Carol, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, good morning. Oh, there you are. How's it going today?
Wonderful. I got my grandchild here for a week.
Oh, fantastic.
And 6 dogs.
Well, good times. So that'll make your what you're excited about this week really easy. What are you excited about this week?
Yeah, I'm very excited, actually. We don't get to see her often. She lives in Tucson, and she's just an animal lover. She and her roommate are always picking up strays. They found some real sad stories. Dogs left out in the desert because they live in near the desert. And this latest one is the 3-week-old kitten that they found in a box at a construction zone that was, it's really sad. And they took it to the vet, and they did all the things they need to do, and they've got a thriving family. So
They've got a whole tribe over there. That's pretty amazing. I love it. I love it. And I'm going to do, Laura, we'll come back to you last. I'm going to let you go last as you introduce Joyce. For me, guys, I'm just super excited. We're getting one step closer to launching the book. I did launch the book launch team this last weekend, so if you're a part of that, I really appreciate it. Lots of cool stuff happening down there. So that's real exciting. Laura, tell me what you're excited about this week.
Well, gosh, life is just exciting. But I'm excited about a project that I'm working on in terms of how I organize my business. And one of the things I was working on yesterday are our values and how I align those. And whenever you do self-work, it can take you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but it gets very exciting as you start to see it come together. So I'm very excited about that. And we did a practice wedding cake because my son's wedding's coming February 1. My husband's the decorator. So we did a practice wedding cake this weekend. So that was pretty fun. And I'm really excited that I have a great friend and colleague that's joining us this morning. And I'd like to roll right into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect setup.
Thank you. I love, as many of you know, either because you've met me, you've attended symposium, you've heard me talk about collaboration. And one of the really great benefits of doing that is getting connected with people who are not necessarily you, right? They have other skills, other lives, other friends, and it makes your life fuller. And I'm really excited to introduce a person like that. Her name is Joyce Gonzalez. And Joyce and I go back a few years. And it's because of the notary business. And I met her because I teach NNA classes. I met her as she became a Livescan technician for the NNA back then. But what I found is she was so much more. Her background was incredibly interesting. And I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about that for us and how that influenced her in going for what she wanted to go after, because she knew pretty clearly what she wanted to do. And Joyce, we're going to unmute you here. Bill, how do we unmute Joyce? Can she unmute herself?
I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted. Okay, great. So Joyce, would you share first a little bit about your Toyota background and how that Kaizen and how that helped you influence your work habits and getting you where you wanted to go?
Absolutely. Okay, so I worked for Toyota for 19 years. And part of Toyota's philosophy is you kind of have to buy into their philosophy. I'm going to just read some notes down here. So part of it is Kaizen, standardized work, go see, go do, and always improving. You always have to continue to improve what you're doing, your process, your product, whatever it is, but you always got to keep moving forward. So I didn't realize how valuable that was in my business until I started my business. And I started first when I became a notary. Toyota's philosophy is you have to master, you have to become a professional at it, you have to be beyond good. So once you become good at it, then you kind of add more to it. You add, and you're always adding value to what you do. You're not just doing it, you're adding value to it. Everything you do has to add value to your product or your business. So I use that. It helped me when I became a notary. And then when I started the notary process, I was introduced to Livescan when they fingerprinted me. And I watched the girl and I said, this is what I want to do. So I became a Livescan technician. I got my certificate, but then I was lost. I wasn't sure what to do. I ended up with a job at National Notary Association. And they were the professionals that Toyota always said, learn from a professional. I learned from the NNA. I learned how to fingerprint, and I worked for them for about 5 years. But during that time, I did have my own business, notary and Livescan. And I had a safety net because I had a job. But in March, I left the NNA and I started full-time with my own company. And that's different from working part-time. You're losing that paycheck. So I had to put things in high gear. I had to really practice what I've learned. And I'm constantly switching things out. Sometimes I have good days, sometimes not so good days. But I don't give up. I keep moving forward. I just have to, look at the day and figure out what I did wrong, what's the root, and fix it, make it better the next day. So some of the things that I've done to do this is I switch my hours around all the time because sometimes I find my hours don't work. I thought having an office would be just wonderful. People would just flow in. Not the case. You have to go out and get those customers. And I go for the big customers, the groups. The single walk-ins are great too, but there's a way to target those. And what I've learned is because I have walk-in hours, I can't always get to these events because I became a member of the chamber and I can't go to all these ribbon cuttings. So what I do instead is I keep a list of the companies that had ribbon cuttings that I missed. And then I go there with a little gift. And I'm going to show you a package I might have, something like this. And just a small gift. This is, put your cell phone on here. I go to them, I introduce myself, I welcome them to the chamber, we have a chat, and I've met these people one-on-one, and as a result, I'm getting business from these customers. One of the customers is a school. They train nurses for nursing assistants, and everybody that becomes a nursing assistant must be background checked. So we negotiated a discount rate. She sends all her nurses to me, and I love it. And that's happened a few times. Some of the other things I do when I'm marketing is I go to these events. I have a little booth. I don't sell anything, but I give things away. I have pamphlets. I talk about what I do, and I meet people. They take my card. And then when I'm at these events, I don't just sit there and wait for the people to come to me. I take my gift again, my little phone stand, and I walk around to every booth. I introduce myself. I give them my gift. And then I get calls from these people. Sometimes they're loan agents, and I do loan signings. And then they'll call me, hey, Joyce, we met here. Can you do this loan signing? Yes, I can. So these are a few ways that I meet people and try and generate business. Another thing I do is sometimes people come into my office and they have like a Livescan form that has an account on it, meaning I only collect my fee, but not the fee for the government because it's billed to another company. So what I do, if they're a local company, I make sure that I send them a letter. I send them a letter and I welcome them. I say, maybe I can provide you with some service in the future. And my letters are well thought out. I start with an envelope. You see this? It's got some color in it. My stamps are well thought out, depending upon, what the company is. I make sure they're colorful. I have some dog stamps here. I have some Nixon stamps. I have these colorful stamps, John Lennon. But I choose everything carefully, from the stamps to how I approach the letter. So a letter can take me 2 to 3 days to write, because I'm switching around. I save it, and I'm always rearranging how I want it to look and what I want it to say, depending upon what company I'm sending it to. I found a good customer in pharmaceuticals. So once I find a company or agency or type of company that uses my service, I know there's more. So I try and target these companies that are nearby, even a little further out into the Bay Area or Sacramento area, because I'm in California in the Central Valley. But the Bay Area and Sacramento, that's all close for me. And so that's some of the marketing techniques that I use. And I send thank you cards all the time. So if a customer comes to me, especially like a church, if they come to me once and then they send other people, I always send them a thank you card. And the thank you card is really simple. My writing is not terribly good, so I just have a little thank you note, something small like this. I type it on paper and then I cut it out and then I use glue dots. I love glue dots. Stick it in there. I throw in a $5 Starbucks and I just say, thank you, have a cup of coffee on me, just a cup of coffee or tea to thank them. And I do that quite often. Again, I take really good care in picking out the stamp. I don't know why I'm obsessed with stamps, but I think they're important. They're like right there on the face of the envelope. And my letters get open. I received two customers that I sent some letters to trying to solicit their business. And the lady said the only reason they selected me was because of my letter. They loved my letter. They loved the way it was designed. So taking, care in designing it, not making it look so, I don't know, like it came out of, mass production. I wanted to avoid that and try and personalize them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is some of the ways that I market my company, and it seems to be working. It's not to where I want it to be yet, because I've only been full-time since March. I have a long way to go to meet my goal, but I'm getting there. I'm one step at a time. That's another Toyota philosophy. Don't go for the home run. Take the small steps, and that's what I'm doing. I take my small steps to get to where I'm getting, and I do see progress every single day. So
I love that. I love that. So there's Joyce. I got to meet you last year at the symposium, and we connected on the concept of Kaizen. So yes. I really appreciate that. That's such a huge component of this business, and taking base hits instead of the home run is way more valuable. And I agree. And what I hear from you is the importance of really, there's this concept that people have that we just come in and we throw 100 or 1,000 different emails or 1,000 different letters out there and just hope something sticks. But what really works is these well thought out, you're choosing the company that you want to work with, and you're crafting your letter around their industry and the value that you bring to them. And then you're spending a little more time crafting the envelope and choosing the rubber stamp, something decorative that is eye-catching on it. That is so powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that. Laura, did you have any more questions on Joe? That was such a great.
Don't you love it?
Yeah.
Just as Joyce, and Joyce has shared things along the way, as I had almost 5 years to work with her frequently, usually a couple days a week. I saw her growing. I saw her creating what it was she wanted to go after. And it was very exciting for me to see that. Joyce, the other thing that I think people would be just interested to know is, one, Joyce will be a speaker at the symposium coming up November 16th for those of you who will be there. And she's going to talk more about Livescan itself. I asked her to come on today to talk about some of the really practical but powerful marketing things that she does that's getting her business, that works. And that all this touchy-feely stuff, we think, oh, that's nice, but does it get me business? It does get you business. And it's really helpful to her. Joyce, is there any actual tidbit you might be able to share regarding Livescan itself? Because I'm seeing some people saying, oh, I'm interested in adding Livescan to my business. What would you recommend to somebody who's thinking about doing that? What should they do?
I would recommend that they go to the Department of Justice website first. Under background, go to the DOJ, go to background checks, Livescan near me. It'll list them by counties. So then you want to go into your county and then start looking at the Livescan companies that are near you. Check the rolling fee, because that's your direct competition. If the rolling fees around you are like $10, $15, that is not enough money to make your business work, because you're only getting, that's your profit. And there's in that profit, there's fees. If you're going to accept credit cards, you're part of that $15 goes away. So these are things you have to think about. But if the fees around here are 25 and up, and there's not a lot of Livescan business in your area, something you might want to look into. When I first started Livescan, I was strictly mobile. That was good and bad, because sometimes people would call me, and when I told them I didn't have an office, I would come to them. They were like, okay, I'll call you back. And they didn't. They having the office adds a little bit of professionalism. They like to know I have a business. They're a little bit leery to give their personal information to somebody on the go. So that's something to think about. If you're something that you want to do and it's feasible, meaning the rolling fees in your area are higher, then go for it.
Thank you, Joyce. And I, want to thank you for joining on with us. I know you're at your office, you're busy, but thanks for taking out a little bit of your time. And then I'd like to add a special announcement today about Livescan, particularly, and that is, if you are in the Northern California, Sacramento area, or out from the Sacramento area, down or north of that, NNA is right now looking to hire a Livescan technician. Now, of course, they'd love it if you're already certified, but they'll hire somebody who has not been certified yet, but this is what they want to do. So if you're interested in that, they do have, you can contact me as one way to find out more information. It would mean traveling in that area up and down from like Modesto up to Rockland, maybe up to Auburn sometimes to do the jobs. They're usually about a half a day at a time. If you want to know more, reach out to me. They're looking to hire a Livescan person now. It's part-time, so they're hoping to get somebody who might have a notary business or they're already doing Livescan and they want to add, a client. So just wanted to let you know if I saw some people who are interested.
Awesome.
All right, Bill, do you have anything else?
Right now, I don't have any more questions. Joyce, that was awesome. Thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into really what comes down to building authentic relationships and really being thoughtful in this. That was great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we actually do have one question. If we want to go ahead, we're going to roll into the questions anyway. Joyce, if you have time to hang around, I know some of these are going to pertain to Livescan and growing this, so we'd love to have your feedback as well. Teresa, if you're available to unmute yourself and ask a question, please feel free.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Joyce and I have talked before. I do Livescan in the Napa area, and I have a problem with balancing. I do most of my business as a loan signing agent, and when I have large jobs for Livescan, I have a problem because I have to turn down a lot of money in loan signings, and it doesn't always balance. I end up making more money as a loan signing agent than I do even in large groups. If I did a school and I did 30 some odd people, and I still by the time I turned down $300 worth of loan signing to do $350, I guess, worth of, or $300, it's not balancing. Because it took a lot longer. It took me 8 hours, 2 days of 8 hours. So that's 16 hours to make $350. And I turned down 2 days worth of loan signings.
Gotcha. Yeah, Teresa, that's a great question. Joyce, any suggestions on how to balance that out?
Yeah, you have to. I started like where she's at. It's a struggle. I decided that I'm focusing more on the Livescan. I spent a ton of money on this equipment. I have 2 sets of equipment. I had to focus my energy on the Livescan, even though it wasn't as profitable at the time as loan signing. So my main focus now is Livescan. And if I get a loan signing, which I am getting loan signings, I'm probably getting maybe 3 to 5 a week. If it fits in my schedule, I take them. Because I've changed before I was strictly walk-in, now on my company name it says, on Google Yelp, convenient Livescan and notary appointment recommended. So now I'm kind of guaranteeing that I'm, You want to call me first before you come. You're taking a chance if you don't call me. This allows me to take the loan signings. When if I need to make some money to get bills paid, I'll take the loan signings. And it is a struggle, but you have to decide what you want to do. And the groups, you have to negotiate your fees correctly as well. Sometimes, I just did the calculations on that. I probably, for that many people, the fees and the cost for that, I probably would have tried to negotiate a little higher fee. But these are things you learn as you go along. You don't know these things at the beginning, how long it's going to take. And it's experience. And I think anytime you have an experience like that, you learn something for the next time. So I think
it was a school. It was a school, and the parent body was paying for it. And so it was, these parents who were volunteering for school field trips and stuff like that. So they couldn't afford a whole lot. So it was either take the group, at a reduced price,
right.
Or, yeah.
Well, I know you struggle. I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent experience. And I think no matter what in this industry, when we take on any type of side hustle, whether it is the fingerprinting or if it's the wedding officiant, we have to kind of balance that out. And one thing, if you're going to do something at a reduced price for charity groups or volunteer groups or whatever it is, sometimes you just have to own that. That's a unique situation. That's not your rule, because we don't compete on price. Like, we don't want to fall into that trap and start being the Walmarts of whatever it is that we start doing and start undercutting each other. We want to provide that value and find the balance in there too, because of the convenience. And one of the questions down here is, when you do a group like this, Joyce, does the school come to you, or do you actually go to the school?
They come to you. And once they come to you, you have to keep them in the back of your mind, because you're constantly, that's where you have to send that thank you card out. They give you a call, and I have 2 machines. So if the group is going to be over 20 and they give me a time frame of 1 hour, there's no way that I could do 20 people in 1 hour efficiently or effectively without, and I'm collecting money at the same time. This requires a second person. So I have a person that works with me, and we have 2 machines. We have our square that we take with us, that new terminal that they have. And we just hit the ground running. We have a lot of times when I did my last group at a school at church, we had 1 hour to do 30 people. And I knew that couldn't do that by myself. I had to have a second person and even a third person to take the money. So, you don't want to shortchange them. You don't want people waiting, because if they're waiting, they're not going to call you back. You might not make as much because you have to pay these people, but you want that customer back. So you have to give them what they're expecting. 30 people in 1 hour, and whatever you have to do to achieve that, you need to do.
And that's what's interesting too, when you consider the lateral value or the lifetime value of these customers. You're getting 30 introductions in 1 hour to people that might use your services for the notary, the loan signings, and everything. Do you have any stories about that, Joyce? Have you met anybody who's just kind of turned into a crossover client?
Well, there is my very first customer. He's a security guard company. He called me. I happened to answer the phone, and we've been partners ever since. It's been about 4 years. And he uses me for everything. Not only that, he sends me so much business. I do fingerprint cards. He sends me tons of fingerprint cards. And from the gun range, because down at the gun range, they need concealed weapons and all of this. So for different states, so he sends me those customers. One moment, someone's at my door.
Yeah.
Hi, I'll be right with you. And then what he taught me also, volunteering. He got me into volunteering, something that I love. He gives so much to the community, and I've learned to do that. So this is something that I've learned from Conrad. He's a good man, and I love being part of this community. I love being a part of the chamber and giving to the causes in my community that I feel passionate about. So that's what I've learned from him, and we become friends. It's great.
Yeah, just one phone call changes everything. I love it. We'll let you take care of your customer, Joyce. I know you got to get to that, and we'll just keep going here. If you want to pop back in, please feel free to do so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Harold, I know you have your hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, excuse me. Yes, I do have a question. And that is, I've run into this a few times, and I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly or not, or what's the best business practice. And that is when I'm taking someone's ID, it's the loan signing. They've lived in the house for about a year or so, and I take their ID, but the address on the ID is different than the address where they live. In your book, which address do you put down? Do you put the address that's on the ID, or do you put the address where they live?
Great question, Harold. Laura, what do you think?
You know, that's state specific. Can you believe that?
I'm
Some
in California.
states, it's first of all, it may be a lender issue. Sometimes the lender says if there's a different address on their ID than what's on the house, that could be an issue. Second, if that's not an issue, some states require the information in your journal match the ID, that they want the name and address on the ID in the journal. So what state are you in, Harold?
California.
Okay, so for California, it is an optional column, so you get to do what you want. So in California, you can put the name and you can just forget about writing the address, or you can write the address on their ID, or you can write the address if it's been corrected to the correct one. I don't write their address off the ID in my journal. I write their name, and I write the address where I was in their home under the address where it took place. So the address where the signing took place is where their home address would go. Because a lot of times the information on the ID is incorrect. You know, the address isn't correct. People don't get around to changing it.
Yeah. Okay, I've always wondered about that. Wasn't sure if I was doing it correctly or not. Thank you.
Yep, great question, Harold. Lori asks, in a loan closing document, do you have to use the 4-digit year when you date the signatures? Is the same required for a loan application? That one can be lender specific, but there's no rule that says you have to date it anyway. What they're looking for traditionally is consistency in the dates. A lot of lenders don't care either way because people do change it, but you get some like Provident who care about everything. So if you have inconsistent dates, it might be a problem, but for the most part, no rule on it. Laura,
No, I agree, Bill. I'm not aware of any rule about that unless I have instructions, or unless I see on a form it says, 4-digit, then I'll follow what the form tells me.
You'll see that sometimes on the VA documents, military documents. Let's see. Okay, good. Well, why don't we jump into the our PowerPoint? We've got a lot of great questions today. Let's go here. There's everybody. See, we added our pictures to the PowerPoint from Garrett. Garrett, I'm curious what you say about this. Carol, is Carol still on?
Yeah.
For some reason she popped out. Garrett says, for those that live in areas with winter driving conditions, do you charge more to go to a job in bad weather or snowy conditions? And if so, how much more? So I'm curious, in the chat, if you're in an area or the state that allows that, I'm sure that's going to be a fascinating conversation. Laura, what do you say about this?
Well, I live in California, so it doesn't snow on me. So I can't say. I do go in the rain. I can't say that I charge any more for rainy day appointments than I do for sunny.
Excellent. And I guess we have to go with state-specific requirements here. Some states just don't allow you to tack on anything or anything, regardless of what it is. So if you're in a state that gives you a little bit of flexibility, I'd be really curious to hear, snow is just not one of those things I have to worry about too much in Arizona either. Carol, you have an opinion on that?
I do deal with that because I have students all over the country and I see what happens sometimes. Most of the time, if it's not safe, they're not going to go, period. And otherwise, I don't suggest that they charge extra for that. If they can drive there and they can get there safely, then it's like any other signing. And it is state specific because a lot of states don't allow you to charge a nickel more than what's regulated.
And that's part of, coming from Montana, that's One of the reasons they're so excited about the remote online notarization is, number one, their neighbors are 200 miles from each other, but in the winter, you just don't want to drive anywhere. So Garrett wants to clarify his question. Now, regarding loan signings, it might change a little bit more, right? So on a loan signing, if a signing company calls you and wants you to drive somewhere where it's a little harder to get to, do you upcharge for that? And I think, Carol, does your answer still stay the same?
Well, it depends. I mean, if this is a matter of going out in the middle of the desert somewhere and you're driving on dirt roads, or you're going up into the mountains where it's going to take you a lot longer, like anything else. If the distance is greater than what you would allow under normal circumstances, then yeah, you add a fee to that, traveling fee for a loan agent, loan signing agent.
Yeah, because really it comes down to time too, right, Carol? Because you're moving slower. It's going to take you 3 hours instead of 1. Then you might be able to do that. I know in Arizona, I had to do a signing in a little town called Crown King, which is like 4x4 only get to. That's the only way to get to it. And I just said $500 because I was like, I didn't really want to do it. And they said yes. So
that's what we used to do when we were in Arizona.
Yeah.
Bill's right. There's places out there that are, you wouldn't ever find them unless you had a very specific map. They're just,
and the people that live there for that very reason, because they don't want to be found. So it's always an adventure. All right. Great question, Garrett. Thank you.
And that can be scary, right, Bill?
It is definitely an adventure. From Tony, when I or we notarize, stamp the document, do we have to write out our full middle name if it is on our stamp and sign it with the middle name in full, or can I just sign it Angelo M. DeMarco versus Michael in the middle? Laura, what do you think? This is for the notary.
My understanding is, however you submitted your commission name to be, which ends up on your certificate or on your stamp, is the name you need to be printing, for instance, in the acknowledgement, if there's a place to put it. And it's how you're supposed to sign your name. Now, caveat to that. The caveat is, if you have an illegible signature, they're not going to know if it's in there or not. It's only going to really be an issue for you if you have a signature that's very legible and they can tell that the name doesn't match. And I'm going to say where it's a problem is recordable documents. Other documents probably aren't going to matter anyways. But if it's a recordable document, I'd be careful.
When I first started out, I'm William Soroka. So I was signing William Soroka. And I was like, this is just, even though Ilium on there was just ridiculously long, especially when you're doing 10, 12 of these a day. So I got the squiggle. And now I have a squiggle signature, and that has been life-changing. So if I had one suggestion, I know a lot of people, when they get their first notary stamp, they put it all, they spell it all out. It's all fancy, but you have to sign that thing every single time. It gets old in a hurry. Mm-hmm. Carol, any suggestions on that one?
Yeah. Have you ever had a Thai student? I think it's 26 letters to their name.
Oh my gosh.
Poor thing. I had a young lady one time. She had a Thai name, and she put her entire name on her commission. Now, my daughter, on the other hand, a little sneaky thing that she is, she just put LG. That was it.
Nice.
Commission's LG. That's how she signs.
Wow.
My husband, we have this great name, last name, Ray. So simple, right? He didn't even want to write Bill, so he is B. Ray.
B. Ray. Sounds like a rapper. I love it.
Well, after you sign it several thousands of times, you make it easy.
Yep, definitely. Laura, second part of this. Also, I was asked, where it says in the verbiage for a notarization, he, she, or they with the pronoun, do you leave these alone, or do you cross out the ones that don't apply?
So anytime you're looking at a notary verbiage in a certificate, there could be specific state rules. I'll tell you, Tony, I'm not sure what state you're writing from, but in California, where we do have that, our verbiage includes that. It is not in the law to do either, to either strike or circle or to address them at all. Our code says it needs to have all the words there. However, it does not instruct us to modify anything. You may have a recorder's office who disagrees. And for their purposes, in their planet, they may say, I want you to be doing that. And I can tell you in California, Sacramento County is that county. I think Los Angeles County might be the other one. There's just a couple counties out of like the 59 counties we have that are that way. But I can tell you right now that the recommendation is to leave it alone unless you're working for that particular county. Because one, we tend to make mistakes, crossing out the wrong one and circling, and it becomes a mess. Two, when did it become my job to determine what their gender is? And three, now we have, the law doesn't tell me to do it. Oh, and actually four, we have new binary cards in California. Now what are you going to choose?
Yeah.
So for all of those reasons, we don't think it's a good idea to be doing it unless somebody asks you. Since the law doesn't prohibit us from doing it, we could do it upon request.
Love it.
I think the new attitude in this country regarding, having to identify sex of a person that's before you has changed. This didn't used to years ago. It wouldn't even be an issue. Didn't even think about it. And I've told my story a couple of times about the husband and wife where they were now both female, and the situation we ran into. So, and I agree with it. I like that. I like this open attitude in this country now that hopefully is just accepting people for who they are.
Love it. Bill, would it be possible for Laura to give clarification on the latest bill approved by Governor Newsom, AB 5, pertaining to the independent contractors versus employees and how it could possibly affect notaries? I know there's a lot of question about that, Laura. Any insight on your end?
I'll tell you what we're postulating or thinking at this moment about that. And that is, it would not impact notaries as we are public officials and hold a public office. And therefore, not considered employee status. So that's the viewpoint that the NNA comes from after their thoughts about it. That's exactly what I think about it. I do think there potentially could be issues for signing companies who exist only because they have notaries who can perform the work. So for loan signing work, I don't know if it's as clear specifically. Whereas if you're just doing general work and you just work for yourself doing these things and you have a million different clients, it's obvious you're an independent contractor. So I don't know what's going to happen regarding this particular bill. I think there's going to be a lot of challenges to it. Just because the bill goes through doesn't mean that's it, it's set in stone. People fight it. And I think that's going to happen. I think there's going to be challenges, and I think there'll be more exceptions. There are exceptions already that have been included in that bill, and I expect there'll be more, and I think we'll be one of them.
Excellent. Thank you. From Violet, number one, where do I go from here? I'm a new notary. Now that I got all my paperwork done to become a notary, how do I go about getting employment? I have a name in the business card already prepared. I know this is a little basic for some, but I know we also have a lot of new listeners that come on here. If you're a brand new notary, Carol, where would you recommend on the loan signing side? What would you recommend next?
Marketing themselves, trying to get some kind of experience, and I've changed my mind. And somebody asked me about this the other day, because I've always been a staunch, you're worth more than that. Don't take those $50 signings. I do draw lines where my students are concerned. I think that there's some that's just ridiculous. You're not going to make money. You might get a little bit of decent experience, but not enough to really make it worthwhile. But do try to sign up with as many places as you can. Go with the SnapDocs. Go with the signingorder.coms. Call companies. Lots of people listed on Notary Rotary. Definitely get some training, whoever you get it from, some real credible training, so that you have that as a background. If you're not trained well, certified, right, you're going to have a really tough time. But just try to get what you can. If you can get a few signings behind you that maybe pay only $50, $60, but they're good experience, add that to your repertoire, and then just keep trying to learn and hone your craft, and it will come. But it's really up to you. You're the one that has to do the work. Nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah, I love that. I think I would totally agree. You have to get yourself into the arena. And also, don't skip the training part because you think you can't afford it, or you think it's not important, or somebody who did this and they didn't get trained, so they don't need to. Trust me, when you don't get training, like me, Carol, Laura, we learned a lot of hard lessons. Like I burned a lot of bridges. I made a ton of mistakes. I lost a lot of clients because of mistakes I made because there wasn't training to even get into. What you buy when you get training is perspective and experience and community and resources that other people don't have. So it's about more than how to sign, date, and stamp the piece of paper. That's important. But there's so much more. And all these resources, we all have hundreds of signing companies or students that share in that information. So that's what you're really getting whenever you get into training, no matter where you go, whether you go to Carol, what does Notary to Pro cost right now?
It's $225. We have 3 different courses. Everything that we have is $225. It's never a dime more, but we have 3 courses now. Basic, the advanced, and a reverse mortgage course. It gives them several months, actually about 3.5 months, usually to access the courses. It includes accreditation. We have certificates that are issued. Then we have a free graduates website, which includes a list for us. We have a list of companies that I worked with, developed relationships with for years. It includes all of the mistakes that I made that I've corrected.
Yeah.
Notary to Pro was built on my mistakes 14 years ago.
Yeah.
The truth. And then we have a lot of other things. The graduates website is unlimited. So we have graduates teaching graduates. Thank you, Laura. And we have community, and I'm a mentor. So my mentoring goes on for, well, probably until I'm in the dust.
Probably so. $225. So we're talking about maybe a signing and a half to have a lifetime of other people's experience and perspective and training. So it's just not one of those things that you want to cut corners on. My training.
And I'd like to add one thing to that.
Absolutely.
This is what makes the 3 of us so great together, because I'm the foundation. I'm not going to ever change. It takes up all of my time. That's what I do. When I watch Bill and what he does and propels people into doing more and being better and adding so many things to the business. So I encourage my students to go to Bill. And with Laura, she's got so many amazing things going on. She has the replays on a lot of the things that she's done. And when I think about the 3 of us, this collaboration between the 3 of us, there's really one person who's benefiting from this, and that's the notary. That's the people who take the time to come on these Tuesday mornings and listen to us and take advice. I'm very proud to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, isn't it? And then that perfect segue, thank you, Carol, because that leads me right into Laura. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching, not only just on loan signings, but on general notary work, she's built an entire practice on general notary work, which is sustainable regardless of economic conditions. So I love that. And she offers one-on-one coaching. So again, not where your training is not what you want to let go of. All the resources are here for you. Now, Laura, that brings me right into this because I'm not quite sure where Violet was looking, whether it be loan signings or otherwise. So if it was general notary work and she was brand new, what suggestions would you give her?
Well, the first one would be to get training, because you need to be knowledgeable about the most common documents that are asked about over and over again, so that when you go to appointments, they are looking to you. Even though you can't tell them how to fill it out or which is the right one, they're still looking to you to be confident about what's going on in the signing process with them, and understanding what their part is and what your part is, because they don't know. They don't know what you really do as a notary. So I think that's the first place. The other part of that would be learning that it's a different marketing game when you do general work than when you do loan signings. And loan signings, there's a path out there, and it's either escrow direct or signing companies. You know, that's pretty much what you do to get there. Outside of that, there are a bunch of little niches and specialties that I develop, and that's why I have continued work coming in all the time. And as Joyce had mentioned, the one-offs that I get from the public are great. But what really helps me is when I learn how to deal with or how to connect with somebody that's going to give me repeat work or increase my workload, like an attorney who is going to call me over and over again, or dealing with a hospital. I mean, there's always going to be people in there, and they're always going to need documents notarized. So finding your foot in the door with those kinds of clients is what will fill up your days with work. And when I do one-on-one coaching, that's something I talk about and I give ideas about and direction about. And that's how you're going to get going. And of course, visibility, I can't speak enough about that. Simple things, putting signs on magnets on the sides of your door that say you're a notary and here's my phone number, because I get work that way. I see you're going to have questions 2 and 3 about website, but you know, having a web presence, it's not just having a website. It's being able to find you on Yelp, on Google My Business, on a website. All those things put together make you visible to the audience you're seeking.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about number 2 and number 3. And again, I want to categorize the difference between general notary work and loan signings. But if you're going to be doing general notary work and you want to grow that business, then yes, you need a website. And granted, it may not just start pumping out calls for you right away, although it might. You need to start building that organic traffic, and time on the web is what's going to help doing that. And there's a lot more to search engine optimization. But really, if you're going to take this business seriously and you're going to be a professional, you've got to have a web presence no matter what. And it's so easy to do these days and free that there's almost no excuse not to do it. Like, I know there's different technical levels that you might have, but Google My Business, if all you did was a Google Pages, which is free, and a template, and you just typed it out so people could look you up. Because here's the thing, escrow officers will look you up and they will see if you're legit, if you're a real person. They're going to want to see a website or even just a domain that points to your LinkedIn page or your Facebook business page. There's something that shows that you're real and you're out there. On the general notary work side, that website is going to generate a majority of your businesses until you start building referral relationships. So yes, I think it's very important on both sides to have. Any other feedback or thoughts on it, Carol, Laura, on that?
I do like one comment, and that somebody said, I don't remember who it was, said, answer your phone. This is the biggest deal. I have a video, as a lot of people know, on YouTube that's been there for years. And one of the things that we demonstrate behind shower curtain, of course, is that I have always, right from the beginning, always kept my phone on the towel rack next to the shower and every place else I went. When you're brand new, you better answer that phone, and you answer it fast. And now in this world that I'm just now getting used to because of my daughter, this world of texting, and it's so frustrating. She'll have her phone, she's carrying it around with her, and dang, I missed one that's right here in my town for $125, and she couldn't get it in time. It's frustrating what the new people have to deal with. It's not like the old days.
Yeah, all they could do was call. The other thing I want to add to your remark, Carol, is that, you know, we are human, and there are going to be moments in the day where we just can't get our phone. It's going to happen, right? We try to answer it as much as we can, but it's going to happen. I don't catch every single call. But here's what I will tell you is that if you get my voicemail, you know you reached a professional. You know you reached a notary, and you know what to do, and I give you an alternative to reach me more quickly. to respond to me. And when I call somebody and they miss their my call, and I listen to a voicemail that is generic or unprofessional, you know what? I don't feel like leaving a message. I'm not sure what I got. So even if you can't answer every single call, please make sure that your voicemail, your text response, all of that is in line with who you are. That's all part of your brand.
Yeah, that's so huge, guys. Give yourself that gift of having a professional voicemail message. I can tell you when I'm looking for notaries and I'm going through and I pick up just a name, hey, you've reached James, and then that's it. Or it's the automated one, please leave a message, and I got to wait and listen for it to tell me your phone number that I just dialed again. You know, that stuff it just doesn't even express that you're even interested in doing business with me. You want a voicemail that captivates people and says, yes, I want your business. I'm too busy to pick up right now. Here's some other options. I want to work with you. That will get you more business. Guarantee it.
I agree.
All right. Next. Rosemary says, I want to know if anyone else is disturbed about Facebook. I would love to delete my account, but would miss the notary groups. I wish there was an alternative. Does anyone else feel the same way? Even beyond feeling the same way, Rosemary, because I think there are a lot of people that are in the same boat. I just wonder if anybody has any other solutions that they found, because there are now other group apps and group that you can have outside of Facebook. I just wonder if they're working, if people are using them. I'd love for you to chat in the chat window and share that as well. There's also a question back here that somebody posted about how long you take. Oh, here we go. No, that's not it. Can't find the exact question, but it was about your scan backs, your UPS receipts or FedEx receipts, all those record keeping. Carol, how long do you recommend people hang on to that stuff?
Probably a lot longer than most people do. One of the things that I talk about that I think is important is to keep documents on a flash drive. Don't keep them on your computer, keep them on a flash drive. And I always kept mine for about a month past the time when I was even paid. And then I felt comfortable destroying them just in case something comes up. As far as your expenses and all of those records, I highly recommend Notary Assist. I know Notary Gadget is out there as well. And these are good programs. And of course, you need to keep things for years, 7 years as far as your taxes are concerned. So I believe in keeping things for a long time. You never know when you have to go back and find something.
I know that I'm not a very good record keeper when it comes to that. And so I used to have, in my console of my car, and when I had my town car, I would have stacks, like thousands of UPS labels from like 2 years before, just in case, because I've had those just in case moments where people said, nope, we never got your documents. It's happened a couple times. Laura, what do you think? Do you have a standard that you use in your business?
For a real-time entry, I use Notary Assist, but in terms of keeping all those papers, I do keep back because I've been audited, and thank God I had all those records. But I start with my confirmation, and then I start attaching to that confirmation. So to the confirmation might go a copy of the UPS or FedEx label that was used. To that, if I had to ship something and I had a receipt, one of those little receipts you get from the store, I stapled that to the confirmation. The voucher from my check that I got, I stapled that to the confirmation. So my confirmation ends up being the holder place for everything related to that particular job. And then I'm filing that, of course, chronologically in a file that I keep so that if I have to go back to something, I can go back to source documents in case I'm audited. So I don't keep those receipts separate from other receipts. Anything that is related to that job is associated to that confirmation in the paper world, and then it's boxed away.
Wow. There you go. Garrett, to answer your question, I think I already answered it actually. So yes, my notary signature has morphed and changed over the years. the thing is, we're not under like this high scrutiny. It's not like they go back and check our signatures, but they're still looking for some consistency. And you want to know what your own signature is too. So mine has morphed maybe 2 or 3 times over the years. And I think Laura kind of addressed this too. If you have a squiggle as a signature, there's not a whole lot of people that are going to come back on the notary. Your signature is your signature. It's only the lenders that can jam that up sometimes. Any other feedback on that?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, because
Sure.
the squiggle has become, over the years, I've seen this attitude toward the squiggle change completely. There was a time, and Laura definitely backed me up, when the lenders would balk at any signature that wasn't spelled out exactly as it was on the loan documents. And there was a few of us that I know, in fact, I know Chrissy, you know Chrissy, and that she was a big proponent of this, that we started fighting with the lenders. Literally, the lenders would say, that doesn't say this. It doesn't say, you know, Andrea G. Green, you know, whatever. And we started balking at it and saying, basically, I'm not going to make this person sign differently than their legal signature, which I can't make out. It's a squiggle, it's boxes, it's dots, whatever it is. They use it all the time. They tell me that is their signature, and I'm not going to ask them to forge their own signature. And it was not until a lot of us started doing this and laying that down for the lenders, that they finally sort of gave up and began to accept that. And now, like I'm telling people and training them, if somebody has a signature on their driver's license that you cannot read, and whatever it is, and they say, this is what I use all the time on everything I sign, you have to accept that.
Yeah, and the key differentiator is, if it's something that you can read, it needs to match the way the signature's
That's right.
printed. And if you can't read it, you just ask them, does that represent that? Yep. Okay, then we're good to go.
It's in there.
Sid said, I was closing on one of our rehab houses, and a title company notary had pre-filled and stamped her notary information prior to my arrival. Is that illegal? He's in Texas. Laura, what do you think?
You can pre-do everything in a certificate except your signature and seal. Those are the only 2 things that must be original and must be at the time of notarization. Everything else, your name, the date, the names of the signers, the venue, all of that can be pre-done.
But
Make
not
sure that the name of the signers is the way that you're doing it, though, because sometimes you get to the home and
then you might have to fix that.
Totally different.
But in loan signings, many times the name of the signers are already in the certificates for us. That is just common. And the venue a lot of times is in there. Sometimes the date is, usually not, but sometimes it is. They only leave the blank for the notary name and the rest of it. But the notary name can even be pre-done. It's just your signature and seal that should wait or must wait until the time of signing.
You know what, guys, when I first started, I'm big into efficiency, and I used to pre-fill this stuff out because I thought that was going to be more efficient. And sometimes it feels like it is. I mean, we're shaving seconds off to fill in this stuff, but if you fill it in wrong, what the jam up that this causes is almost where it like sucks all the efficiency that you've done for the last 20 signings out, because you got to cross out, initial, sign. Sometimes it's such a mess that the lender or the escrow officer is frustrated or upset. So it's almost just not worth even doing it. I mean, it's a personal decision, but I don't think it's saving as much time as you think.
Well,
Bill,
don't forget the time that was spent pre-doing it at your home. You may not have spent that 10 minutes at the signing, but you spent it at your house or your office or wherever you're doing that. So the time isn't gone. You just moved it.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. And we hear this a lot about the printing too, where people just want to print double-sided on 8.5 by 11 leather size paper to save pennies. We're saving seconds at a time. When that time, it's just focused on the wrong thing. We could be marketing, we could be building relationships, we could do all those things that are going to help grow our business or grow ourselves, rather than shaving pennies off of a signing or seconds off of a signing.
Bill, there was a comment just a few minutes ago, to go back, somebody said something, they mentioned my name and said something about, I tell them if you have no signings, tell them you have no signings.
Yeah, never misrepresent your experience. You will be less likely to receive jobs. Well, let's see. It just says that you said don't ever misrepresent yourself.
And if you've had zero experience, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because if everything else is in place and you're calling the right companies and you have good certification, then they're putting people to work now that it just amazes me. Like I have students that are graduating, they call me 2 days later, help me, I just got my first signing.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, guys, you know, if you're all you're doing is signing up on a list and some computer system somewhere is saying zero experience means the bottom of the list, then you're not really serving yourself or your business or your future or what you want this to be. There's a follow-up process. It's building relationships. It's checking in. But we also have to understand why these companies have the rules that they do. They just pick this arbitrary number and say, all right, 2 years experience or 50 signings. Why do they have that? Because they want somebody who's going to represent them well at the table and have an understanding of how to do this work. If you have the training and you believe that that's who you are, and you believe that all the experience that you've had in business or in jobs before is going to serve you well, and you are the best person to do this work, then it's your job to kick the door down and sell yourself to them. It works every day. It works. If you follow up, I know there's some automated responses sometimes. And if you respond back professionally and state your case, you'll get reapproved when a human being gets a chance to look at you and see your answer. They want people who take this work seriously. And if you prove that to them, they're going to give you a chance. Guys, that brings us right up to 9:02. I think it's a little late now. Thank you so much for growing yourself and your business on a Tuesday as usual. We love this. Carol, thank you for taking so much time out of your day today. I know it's crazy busy for you, lots of new students and lots of new signings. Laura, as usual, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you and all of your legal insight into the notary work. I absolutely love it. And that's it, guys. Thank you.
Joyce, thank you for being with us today.
Oh,
Yeah,
Joyce,
thank you for our guest.
Joyce, thank you so much for taking time out of your day as well. Appreciate it. We'll see you later. Thanks, guys. Recording up on YouTube a little later on.